Imagine your team's star player is sidelined days before the biggest tournament in your game's history. Sure, the roster has a solid backbone, and there are other players who can pop off, but it's hard to imagine them going the distance without that added star power. But on this rare occasion, the right player stepped into that void, and even without much practice, absolutely destroyed the competition. Hell, if what we saw from Sentinels this past weekend was any indication, they might look even better with the replacement. That's why we have to talk about TenZ. Hey guys, if you're watching this video, it's probably not the first time we've talked to you about subbing to our channel, but maybe it's the time you should actually do it. We're on the road to 2 million subs and we need your help to get there, so why don't you hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and let us know in the comments below what kind of stories you're keeping an eye on. Maybe we could talk about them in a future Don't At Me. Okay, so if you're not familiar with TenZ, here's a quick refresher. He played CSGO and eventually earned his big shot with Cloud9 in that game. But after only a few months on the roster, he was benched. But make no mistake, he had a rep as an aim god, a phenom. After becoming the organization's first VALORANT player, TenZ showed off some crazy skills with Cloud9 Blue. And for a lot of people, it was further evidence that he was one of the best young aimers in VALORANT. But that team didn't dominate the limited slate of events available during the Ignition Series era, and it mostly became known for his strong play, sometimes sardonically labeled TenZ and Friends. Whether you agree with that moniker or not, TenZ was clearly an important part of this roster. So when he later announced a swap to streaming and content creation, still under contract with Cloud9 of course, it felt like his developing potential was being wasted. But why is TenZ playing for Sentinels now? On March 9th, Sentinels star player Jay Sinatra Wan was accused of sexual assault by his ex-girlfriend Cleo. We already did a video about the situation, so we won't go into detail here. But the accusation left Sinatra suspended from the team and unable to play in the upcoming Masters tournament pending an investigation. The suspension, announced a couple days before VCT Masters Stage 1 began, left Sentinels with a decision. Who replaces Sinatra? Well, we got an answer pretty quick. After Riot granted them an exception to fill out their roster, Sentinels were able to acquire TenZ from Cloud9. Here's Sentinels IGL ShahZaM talking about the move on stream.
I DM'd him on Twitter. I said, yo, you want to play? He said, I'm down.
Yeah, so I'm on loan from C9 to Sentinels. So basically, Sentinels is just taking over my contract and I'm fully representing Sentinels.
So the accusations against Sinatra go public on March 9th. On March 10th, he's suspended from both Sentinels and the VCT. And on March 11th, Sentinels announced that they've acquired TenZ and he's going to be playing with them at Masters, which starts in less than 24 hours. We're talking about a player who hadn't played a competitive match in like 2 months, and then he's signed up as the sub for Sentinels, and he had basically no time beforehand to practice. Like, he had basically 1 hour of practice.
In regards to practice, since it was such a last minute thing of getting me, we haven't practiced at all, and tomorrow is the tournament, and I don't think we have scrims before the tournament. So tomorrow at 12 PST, that'll basically be our scrim right there.
And keep in mind, this is right before the biggest tournament for NA yet, and Sentinels were probably considered favorites by many, at least top 2 by most. There were obviously still questions about the roster. Even with TenZ's firepower, how would he be able to fit into Sentinel's system? Who the hell would play Jet? Would ShahZaM be able to figure out the best way for all of this to work? And to that last question, the answer was a resounding yes.
At the beginning of the year, it was in their ability to retake specifically against Sentinels. But now that TenZ is in the fold, I don't know that you're going to be nearly as effective as you were before. The ace is stolen, but it doesn't matter. Sentinels hold fast.
Against LG, the team found their footing with big performances from both SicK and TenZ. On map 3, TenZ was absolutely off the chain, going 27, 15, and 9 with a 275 average damage per round. And listen, if you thought TenZ was done with content creation for the moment, you're wrong, because he gave us some pretty good clips.
He's got the frenzy, and he's got a kill. Man, all up in Moose's face, and he's getting a jumping one as well onto Thief. I said this the first time I called TenZ. This is his world, and we're just living in it. He's got 4. He's going hunting for the ace. Let him off the leash. He's digging it.
It was clear that TenZ had found his stride by the end of this series, and it's kind of funny because he later admitted that he played that first map with a comically high sensitivity. But the real test would be 100 Thieves later that weekend. Their slower one duelist style would surely contrast against the looser two duelist style being played by Sentinels. But even though map 2 went to overtime, it was Sentinels moving on to winners finals.
3v3, he's got the showstopper as well. TenZ looking to go big for Sentinels, and so far, so good. The spike goes down, number advantage in favor of Sentinels, and oh my gosh, TenZ is just a man possessed. Dapper does it as well.
And Sentinel's social media guy gave us one of the best post-series clapbacks ever. This is honestly a series that Sentinels, with their last-minute substitution, would have been forgiven for losing. But instead, their opponents are giving them props. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for 100 Thieves. So far, they've struggled to dominate with their slower one duelist style in the adrenaline-addicted NA landscape. And listen, maybe history will absolve 100 Thieves for moving to this slower style and just working through these growing pains now. Maybe in 2 years, we'll look back nostalgically at this time and think, wow, wasn't it awesome you could run 2 duelists? Wasn't it so cool that you could play Phoenix? Do you remember how everyone was saying Schmeeg nonstop?
Just know that nobody else, no other Jet Schmeegs, bro. It's only me, dog. I'm the only Jet that actually Schmeegs. Don't confuse playing good with Schmeeging.
For the moment, 100 Thieves have to just figure this thing out, and Sentinels have to keep up the pressure on their opponents. TenZ was an important part of that pressure, but also key to these victories was SicK, who played incredibly well personally and in tandem with TenZ. Sentinel's in-game leader ShahZaM has also seemed to have an easy time making TenZ comfortable.
He was able to explain most stuff that they would do and stuff within like an hour and kind of slot me into the role. And then he was able to kind of like counter call against LG. He was able to get some good reads against 100 Thieves. He was getting some good reads. So ShahZ's IGL ability is insane.
Sentinel's future is still up in the air, but with TenZ on the roster, this team is demolishing some of the best teams in NA. At least against LG and 100 Thieves, this roster looks like it has the potential to win it all. These guys are incredibly fun to watch, and if TenZ ends up going back to content creation and streaming after this is all done, it'll be an unfortunate loss for the community. It's worth pointing out that TenZ confirmed on stream that he's on loan to Sentinels for at least the duration of Masters.
I'm on loan from C9 to Sentinels, but the way the loan is working is like I'm fully under Sentinels for the duration.
Listen, TenZ is wasted on the ladder. He needs to be on a top roster, one that gives him the support he needs in the server to win matches and outside of game to continue to develop his skills. If long-term that roster ends up being Sentinels, I think Valorant fans could be in for a hell of a ride. Sentinels will face FaZe Clan on Friday. Another awesome story there, and one that I'm excited to bring to you later this week, hopefully with some comments by the Schmeeg himself. What did you guys think of Sentinel's opening weekend with TenZ? Let me know in the comments below. I feel like my own trajectory as a human being has mirrored ShahZaM. in the sense that like there was a time when I was like a different person. I'm just like not that person anymore, and I feel like Shia LaBeouf's the same way. Now, having said that, I think he's. Well, I'm not gonna shit talk Shia LaBeouf. He'll come to my house, so I don't want that. But you know, you're like, hey, you know what the fucking deal is? Put your coat up by the fucking door. You know, exactly 2 kinds. We got domestic. We got premium. We have domestic. We have domestic premium. We have. That's it. There's no stouts. A porter's a thing they got at the Hilton.